So the last video, we're talking about this my new favorite role. And when I say favorite, I'd fallen in love with it in a way that I hadn't before. But is it actually my favorite role? We're going to find out right now, and we're going to find out with some fabulous company. And that company is, well, dang it. David Beckham couldn't make it. So second yellow card's here. I hope that's okay.
That's fine. I mean, I've always been his substitute anyway.
A super sub. We're going to rank
just ask Victoria.
Oh, God. We're going to rank our top 5 favorite roles. We've both been playing Football Manager obsessively for a very long time, and so we might just have culminated and cultivated a little bit of gravitas. Time for us to waste it. Let's do it. Before we get rolling, though, I want to take a second to tell you guys about a game I've had fun on in the past. That's called Top 11. It's a completely free-to-play game. It's available in the App Store. You can also play it on your web browser when you're just looking to hang out. It's even in the Google Play Store. You want your football, your soccer gaming fix, but you don't want to have to think quite as hard as Football Manager, right? With your spreadsheets everywhere. That's not what Top 11 is. You are still in charge, though, of every aspect of the club. You're in charge of signing the players, setting up the formations, arranging the training, and just like me on every stream and YouTube video we've ever made, we're trying to win trophies here. And they have 4 competitions going on in every top 11 season. You've got the League, the Cup, the Champions League, and then the Super League. And if that's not exciting enough for you, you can actually team up with your friends and play with your friends against other groups of managers on top 11 with these teams you've put together and tactics and everything. The reason we're bringing it up today is, well, the season actually just started on February 27th, so get in there. It's in 31 languages, and there are 240 million players. This is your chance to play Top 11 2022. All you have to do is click the link down in the description. You can prove to your family that you are, again, the best football manager. So what we've done, and I warned second yellow card what we're going to be doing before we sat down, is we've gone through and made a list of our top 5 favorite roles. This can be any position in football manager. So, you know, when you're looking at the tactic, you see all this fun stuff. Any one of these roles, anywhere, are top 5 favorites. In you took it particularly far. You actually went back to all of your old saves to try and educate your decision.
Yeah, educate probably not the best word there, but I did come to some conclusions. There was me going back thinking, oh yeah, no, I'm a cultured man. I've used all these fancy roles. And then it was just central defender, goalkeeper. So I've had to kind of wing it a little bit on those. So
you created this spreadsheet, which I'll try and get to the editing team, where you went back. How far back did you go? 2015?
2014.
20 FM 14, and recorded every role that you used in a major tactic and like a major save for you. That's incredible.
If I was going to do it, I was going to do it properly. So no, I just went back and looked at all my Champions League finals or any kind of like last episodes of seasons or whatever, and just had a little look through at what kind of roles I was using at the time, because I mean, some of them I probably not used in about 5 years, and I'm sort of sat there thinking, what was I thinking back then? Apparently I was way more creative back then, apparently.
I saw at the bottom of the list you have 1 trequartista at striker and 1 at attacking midfield, so you did get fancy at some point. But there's a lot of wingers. I don't know if I should be disappointed in you.
Yeah, I'm not a very narrow man, apparently. I mean, in Football Manager formations, I'm very wide, as in real life.
Really set the pace for real life to follow with that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
but we're not here for diet recommendations. We're here for roles. So number 5, your 5th favorite role. I'm going to go first on this one, and I feel like it's going to be a bit of a controversial stance here. This is one that's going to surprise. It's going to perhaps it's going to excite. Target forward.
Oh.
What do you think?
You might notice that's absent from my list entirely, I think. I think I've used it once this year, maybe. Yeah, because with that OP headers and meta crossing this year, it became more viable. But I think it's just I've always liked pacey strikers, and whenever I found a tall guy that was good enough, he was usually fast as well, so I tended to use him as another role. But I've never really liked target forwards. I just haven't. Tell me your feelings.
Right, so for 2 consecutive years, you and I both make a habit of starting with bad teams, which I always respect. For consecutive years, I have bludgeoned my way into the top flight of whatever country I was playing in using a target forward. And my opinion is thus: a good target forward is easier to find than a lot of other roles. You just need a tall dude.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then you aim your distribution towards him, and you play off of him. And there's a flip side to this, because I've also I think it's Club Bruges. I can't remember for sure. They have a 6'7" striker playing as a target forward. There is no single role that is harder to defend against if it is done that well than a target forward. And so it's double-sided. I think in lower leagues, it works really well because it's easy to find and it's easy to build off of. It's like you're able to create your attack off a target forward. But in the flip side of it, if you're executing the target forward role at an extremely high level, it's impossible to stop. I think his name's Onuachu. Let me look him up.
Oh, Paul Onuachu. Yeah. Used to play for Midtjylland, I think.
Yeah. Oh, Genk. It was Genk. It's not Club Brugge. My sincerest apologies. He's 6'7", 205 pounds. You put that guy up there as a target forward, I swear he could play for PSG and be a star.
Yeah. That man has to duck to win headers.
He's gotta get low. He's gotta get in a nice stance. I mean, come on.
Every header is a diving header for him.
The thing is, they draw so much attention, especially in the match engine, that they'll suck the defense forward. And if you have inside forwards and an advanced forward on the other side of them, and they just open up so much space, and you can't take the ball from them.
Because they're usually very physically strong as well. It's not just like the height that they've got, that kind of presence to hold the ball up. I suppose, particularly if they've got like one of the player traits, like holds up ball, if that's still a thing that you can actually use. I can see why that would work, particularly in the lower leagues. I think that's where you'd really get the most out of it, particularly in those first couple of seasons, because as you say, they're easy to find. So you just need a tall guy that's got okay jumping reach, I suppose, and maybe decent heading if you're lucky.
I mean, they have like 13, 14 jumping reach, but that's enough in lower leagues when you're playing 5'9" center backs. What's your fifth role? I'm glad I could convince you mine was okay. What's yours?
You won me over. Okay, I'm going with still a sort of, it's more of a defensive role, but it's not fully. It's ball-winning midfielders.
Oh, you won't find any art. Everybody loves a good ball-winning midfielder.
They're just so... They're like your bread and butter. They're not doing anything fancy. They're just sitting there winning the ball back for you. And it does kind of feel like over the last sort of, 7 or 8 years of FM, they've kind of come in and out of vogue as to how well they worked in the match engine, because it felt like sometimes they wouldn't win the ball back a lot. And when they're called ball-winning midfielders, sometimes you just kind of need them to do that part of their job.
Nah. Oh, sorry.
But then sometimes you get match engines like I think this year where they can play a bit of ball as well. Even if they've not got the best passing, they can kind of keep things ticking over in the midfield. And I've always just liked, if I've got a creative player in my midfield and say a 2, I usually instinctively want a ball-winning midfielder sat next to them, just because it's like it's like eating sweets in the middle of the night. It's my comfort zone having a ball-winning midfielder right there.
I really need to make that ball-winning midfielder great. I'm always addicted to the physical freak. I had one from Greece. I think it was last year, and just somebody that is big and strong and fast. And I don't even care if they have the technique. They just need to be a physical freak, and usually they'll just have tackling and some sort of aggression, and that's all you need.
You just want a guy that's going to stand there and be like, no, you're not coming past me, and if you do, I'm going to break your legs.
Or the brake is on, and all of a sudden this person just comes out of left field. They're just flying into the picture, and they just cut off the angle, clatter the guy. They get 3 yellow cards in a row.
They're taking everyone with them.
Top 5, I actually kind of understand a ball-winning midfielder. I didn't think about it, but I understand it. What's number 4? Number 4! Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, is this me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I got confused with the order. Inside forward, left. Because most people, let's be honest, we're using inside forwards on the left-hand side. There's not really a lot. There's so few good left-footed players a lot of the time because of the statistical breakdown of footedness that if you're going to play an inside forward, it's probably going to have to be on the left-hand side, because it does open up your options, because they might have an okay left foot too. But that ability to cut inside is so deadly, and it just seems to have never not been. Whether it be sort of inside forwards or even inverted wingers when they were kind of the thing. I've always been more of an inside forward man myself, but they're just so powerful, either for creating chances, cutting inside and shooting, or the thing I like about them the most I've found lately anyway, is those late darting runs to the back post, getting a bit of a cross on the right.
This was
lethal.
what I was going to say. I was waiting to say it. The best thing about inside forwards this year is those runs they make that the center backs don't see coming. And it's this late in the channel, and they just pop up.
And with the right player trait, I think it was FM20, maybe FM20, that with a gets into the box trait on a inside forward with supporting role, they were basically untraceable. It was like they were spies that couldn't be seen by anybody, and then they would just appear and score. Incredible.
It's not even the Arjen Robben like cut in shoot from the edge of the box. It's the fact that when one of your strikers drops deeper to play a ball or gets drawn into the channel by a ball over the top, that they show up as the second striker. If you're playing with 2 strikers and an inside forward, or they'll always be there to supplement your center forward. I agree with that. I love it. I'm confused by the specificity of it being on the left side, but it makes complete sense. Now, number 4 for me, this is a role that I seen on your sheet you've barely used. Carrilero.
Oh, I see.
Oh, you see?
I did use one last year.
Okay, so You're not entirely anti-Carolero. I know a lot of people that are.
I'm not against it. It's one of those roles that I've never truly understood, and I think that it's less a case of me not using it because I don't think it's good, and more because I think I'm too stupid to understand how to use it effectively. And I think I just make myself look like an idiot if I try to use one. But I used one last year in a right backless tactic when I was playing in Africa in a midfield 2 with a DM offset behind him, and for some reason he did seem to perform really well on the left of that. It's the only time I've really had any kind of quality out of one. I'm not entirely sure which systems I actually used these Caballeros in, but I think it was a long time ago and I didn't really know what I was doing then, and I think I only used it last year because someone in chat told me to.
Yeah, well, it's you almost use it on a dare, but it's when you have that narrow midfield. And say you have 3 midfielders, but you don't have a winger in front of them. I've started to use it because narrow midfielders are something that I've found success with in FM22. Fallen in love with it. It's like a box-to-box midfielder with defensive responsibility, but they don't have the closing down of a ball winner, so they don't get cards.
Okay. You've just explained that better than the game has.
Yeah, they have a lot of lateral defensive responsibility, and so they just cover it all the way to the line, but they'll drift in. It says they float. It doesn't say the player instructions, but in that little write-up at the bottom, it says that they float between positions in the midfield, which means like when your playmaker leaves their spot or your roaming playmaker leaves their spot, the Carolero will float into that position. They'll shuttle between lines of the midfield. I love it.
I think that's why I think I used it.
But by the time this comes out, there will be a whole video released about how much I love Caballeros, and so that's that's the role video I recorded.
Well, you'll have to win me over with that.
Yeah. So we don't need to belabor the point. They're great. Number 3, and I'm gonna go with number 3 here. I'm waiting for us to have. I don't know if we're gonna have any of the same one. Number 3, wingback. Not complete wingback, not fullback. Wingback. Now the trick here is it's hard to find somebody that does this well, but I love wingbacks because they're nightmares to defend.
I like them, but because for the same reason I think you said before about managing really low, I always find that when you start off trying to use wingbacks, I find is just too complex to get a player that meets those requirements quick enough. And by the time I've grown a little bit, I'm always happy with my tactic, and I'm just like, I don't want to change it now, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I know what you mean, though, because if I was going to pick any of those roles, like starting from the best squad in the world, I probably would go with wingbacks, because complete wingbacks, I find, tend to, if the player is like a natural complete wingback, it usually means that they're just a winger and they don't have a lot of defensive quality sometimes, whereas the fullbacks can't get forward as much.
Natural complete wingbacks are just some of the best players in the world. I mean, there's not a lot of natural complete wingbacks that aren't playing in a top 7 or 8 league at a really high level.
Yeah, but if you want that kind of that nice in-between ground, like for the intermediate level, the wing-back covers all the bases there because they can get forward, they can get back, hopefully. I often find when I see a player that's considered a wing-back by the game, they'll have like 6 tackling, and to me that just isn't enough for them to be able to get back and cover. But when you find that guy that's got, I don't know, even 13 tackling to start with, it's such a nice base to build out to a really nice defense.
It is. And responsible defensive fullbacks are great, but I often play with some sort of defensive midfielder, so the fullbacks can go nuts. And wingbacks, and my favorite little secret tidbit on wingbacks is that wingbacks actually don't have anything telling them to get wider. They try and get wider when they have the ball. They won't try and dribble through the middle. Like they have a run wide with the ball, but they don't have any natural stay wide instruction. And so if you have a tactic where you're looking for somebody to float into a half space and create some chaos, wingbacks can do it. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is box-to-box midfielders, which is, I guess, kind of on the lines.
I knew this was going to be while they can be great, this is the reason they're not on my list. While they can be great, they can also completely disappear from the game. It totally depends what player you have there.
Agreed. It feels like you could find the player. You'll look at the attributes. It lines up perfectly for a box-to-box midfielder. It's a match made in heaven. And you get there and something just doesn't click and you end up going home from the day early. It's not always going to be perfect. But when you find that guy that's got the work rate and the teamwork and that real ability to bomb between boxes over and over again and has decent finishing, I find is really useful. Maybe some long shots on him as well. That isn't afraid to pass the ball at times too. It's a joy to watch them. But yeah, I suppose it's a rare beast. They're hard to find, but when you get one, it's so good to watch them in the match engine.
You don't even have to tell them to do the things that they do, right? You don't have to put them on center mid on attack for them to show up in the other box. They're just going to show up there when they feel like it's necessary and make some play. And you just get to pat them on the back and go, well, great job. You're a really good player. You've done wonderfully here.
They're kind of like a golden retriever that you just throw the ball, they go get it. Throw the ball the other way, they go get it. And they're happy with whatever they're doing because they've got the ball.
But you can also get exposed, especially if they get tired. But it's your turn again. We are on the number 2 level, so our top 2 favorite roles ever.
Incredibly, it's another midfield role because apparently I just love midfielders. Deep lying playmakers.
Oh,
is my number 2.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
I love them. I say I love them. I've not used them as much lately, but it appears that I have had a love affair, or else it wouldn't have made it this far up the list. I've always found that just having that guy that can sit there and not always be relied on to get forward as much, but can just spray passes about, particularly if you've got really fast, nippy wingers or strikers that are really good at breaking the offside trap, that player that's got really good passing and vision and has a couple of player traits to go with it, like tries killer balls or long-range passes. Sometimes, particularly when you're chasing a game and you want to go more direct, I find there's nothing better than having a deep line playmaker that's just going to sit there and spray balls over the top and you can repeatedly get in behind. Works really well in PvP as well, I think.
I mean, you don't have to sell me because my number 2 is deep line playmaker.
Yes, we agree for once. Nice.
We agree. We have 3 that weren't even on each other's lists, and then we both put deep line playmaker at number 2, which is incredible for a lot of the same reasons. They unlock they're so much better than advanced playmakers, I think.
Yep. Agreed.
They unlock defenses because they draw people forward. They're just nightmares to play against, and they have a lot of defensive responsibility. They contribute to the offense, but they're very responsible defensively, especially if you put them on defend. They hold their freaking position. They don't go anywhere. They just sit back there and just Pirlo it all day. They're just playing backyard ball, just singing it everywhere. I love a good dilp.
Who doesn't?
So number 1. Okay, let's say this at the same time. I think we can do this. Ready?
Okay. Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Advance forward.
I knew it. I freaking knew we were. Once I realized that we both had deep line playmaker at 2, we had advanced forward at 1. Advanced forwards are even better than they used to be because in the FM22 match engine, they get involved in the interplay more.
Yes, they do.
They drop in and they just push the back line back. They put the other team under so much pressure. They're better than any other role. That's it.
They're just the best because one of my I always used to like advanced forwards because they were just like your basic, not even that basic. They seem basic because it seems that most players seem to be pretty solid as an advanced forward when you get a striker. That always seems to be one of their high ranking roles, but it's not even that basic of a position to play because it does require passing. But it feels like this year in the match engine, they actually use that passing.
They do.
They're getting assists. They're linking things up. You can play them alongside someone else and they're not going to constantly steal the limelight and want to just be constantly bombing in behind like perhaps maybe a poacher would do. And they're just so fun to watch. And they score a lot of goals. A lot of goals.
They're just natural forwards. Like, I feel like every other forward role is you asking a 9 to do something different. And advanced forwards are just what you want out of a striker in the game, and they're better than they've ever been. And just because they're simple doesn't mean that makes it better, right? For us to be ranking roles, like this is a role you use at every single level of the game without a problem. Precisely. There's always somebody with the holy trinity of finishing, first touch, and dribbling that has either athleticism or off the ball, right? Like,
one of the two or both if you're really lucky.
If you're lucky, at a low level, they have one of the two. Passing's extra gravy on top, but there's always that dude that's got some combination of that. He just came out of a contract. His career has sucked. And you pick him up, and then all of a sudden he's a hero.
He's been released by Man United 3 years into his contract. You pick him up on a free in the 6th tier. But yeah, the man can't run, but he's got 17 finishing. All you need to do is put him near a goal and you'll get goals.
Yeah, he's got 17 finishing, 14 off the ball. So the moment that the terrible center backs you're playing against fall asleep, he's in.
Yeah, exactly. He can stroll through the defense and just slot away goals for fun. It's a joy.
That is amazing. And probably should tell people a lot that we've both played an obsessive amount of Football Manager. And even though we got a little fancy with our last 3, the top 2 were the same and probably things you need in almost every side.
I'd say so. I've used them pretty much every year, I'd say. Given how many I've got in my spreadsheet, I'd say I've used them virtually every year, at least in 1 or 2 saves.
I think I'm close. I think I've overlooked deep lying. I've played no playmaker formations at times, but a good deep lying playmaker, and there's so many of those too. That's what makes. There's always some dude with passing and vision.
Every central midfielder that can pass.
Yeah. Every midfielder that does nothing but pass and vision. I call them passing merchants. And I have 4 on my team right now.
Plus, the game, basically, it seems like anytime a central midfielder comes through and they've not been fully scouted, but they have okay passing and vision, it's kind of like that anime meme where it's like, the game's just like, is this a deep-lying playmaker? Just every single time, no matter what.
Every region ever. Is this a deep line? Yeah, it is. Congratulations. You win. Well, hey guys, check Matt out in the description. Second yellow card, all of his fun stuff. He's always doing saves. Very similar to the sort of stuff I will do on Twitch, where he's bringing teams up from the depths of despair of trying to win Champions Leagues. Thank you for joining me today, my dude.
No problem, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Salud.